Canada. I am a certified career and resume strategist, and I would be sharing some of the phone interview tips today. How do you nail that? And how do you pass that? And then move on to the multiple rounds. And it might depend on the industry and it might depend on the company. So there's no one size fits all, but I'm definitely going to share something that I've done it in the past as a hiring managers. I come from the hiring background. I have more than 10 years of hiring background from the top award-winning company in Canada. And you know what? Every time when I'm hiring, it was different, different type of role and different type of environments. I'm going to share what I've learned as a hiring manager. And I was a job seeker as well. So, and I applied a couple of tips from there, and my client actually go through this as well. I am an interview coach as well. I prepare people for interview preparations, and I want to make sure if I am fine and dandy on YouTube. So just want to make sure, okay? Because I don't want to keep on going unless I know that I'm right there with you on YouTube channel. So you can hear me on YouTube. So I'm not sure. There are a lot of people on audio live on my LinkedIn as well. On YouTube channel. So you can hear me on YouTube. So I'm not sure. There are a lot of people on. Perfect. I have it. I'm going to share the screen so that way people know. You can see yourself. I am streaming this on LinkedIn Live as well. So you know what? You can see yourself. Let me see here. I can do this. All right. How many people are tuning in here? Wow, 96 people listening. That's amazing. Do you see yourself on YouTube channel? Yeah, give me thumbs up if you're watching me on YouTube. All right, Dan, good to see you. All right, perfect. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. You know what? The phone screening. And I'll tell you this, a lot of people out there, they are thinking right now is, you know what, it's just the phone screening, recruiters and talent acquisition team, they're just a gatekeeper and I don't have to impress them. Let me just, impress the hiring manager. But you know what, you're totally missing out on it. You got the first phone screening is really, really important to impress those gatekeeper because they have all the checklist. As a hiring manager, I am talking to them in the meeting and I'm telling them, this is what I want. And then what happens is they're going through the checklist and they are moving you to the second level or fourth level, like whatever they have a process in based on the employer's the demanding list, right? So now phone screening, sometime what happens is there are a couple of ways that they're going to conduct the phone screening. First is you're applying and you might have to go through a lot of testing, such as personality testing, AI interviews that you're not even meeting the recruiters, you're not even listening to their voice. It's all automated. And then they have probably resolved what kind of person you are, what kind of personality you have. And there are a lot of testing and it depends on the industry. A lot of my clients, they go through this because they actually are in the different industry, which is customer service role, leadership role, retail industries, banking industry. They do a lot of AI interviews before you even get that phone screening. So you have to pass those. So when you get that phone call, chances are recruiters might have the scores and your personality and the testing scores already. They already know something about you. So which is easier because now you don't have to go on to really, really deep because they know you and they're just trying to feel it. They're trying to identify the fit, right? And there are a lot of biases. It happens, and a lot of recruiters and the hiring managers, they're not trained, right? And I'm going to go through a couple of biases, which you can look into it and you know what, make sure that you understand this and maybe it's a good thing for you, right? Maybe. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to share the slide a little bit later on. And I'm also going to share the hang in until the last moment. I'm going to share you the sample, which I've used it personally for myself as well and some of my clients as well. Similar technique. How do you answer with the structure so you're not providing a lot of irrelevant informations? This is really crucial. So the phone screening is not about dumping all the informations you had. This is where people go wrong. So what are the questions that would probably come in in a phone screenings are most probably things like, tell me about yourself. That's the questions. I'm in Canada. A lot of people in Canada and States. I don't know anyone's from States. Give me thumbs up. And I know a couple of people I saw it in the audio live. So tell me about yourself. Are those questions who something that you really need to know, right? You only get first chance to impress them. If you just go randomly more than 5 minutes and 10 minutes and give them a whole history of yourself and tell me about yourself, you probably lost them, right? So keep it very crispy. I use the technique called park technique. I'm going to give more on that a little bit later on in next editions, but tell me about self is all about the technique I teach people is be personal, talk about the passion. And these are the framework I put it through for my clients in interview coaching. So you don't want to go into the whole personal details that it would open the can of biases and discriminations. You got to be strategic based on what role you're applying for, the industry, and who are you talking as well. And you know what? The accomplishment is the other character, results, and talking about the company and moving on to the conversation piece. That's a gist of tell me about yourself, right? So now, and then there are going to be phone interview where the second stage of phone interview would be, now you've applied online, and you know what's going to happen is people are going to just call you, right? All they have is your resume and cover letter and probably your information set up in the database. They have no clue. They probably scanned you out on interviews. And then, you know what? They're like, okay, you know what? I feel like there's something missing. I want to just see if the person is the right fit. Because at this time, the talent acquisition team and recruiters are going with the checklist, the mandatory requirement that they really want you to have, the tools that you have used and whatnot, right? So all they have is a paper. All right. And the first blunder that I've seen it personally for me, is one of the things that you want to stand out is do this. If you don't take anything from today's sessions, I want you to take this first tip that I'm going to give you very seriously. All right. So if you have set up an interview with a recruiter where there's a timing that you said, okay, that works for me, there's a slot, and you pick that timing, or when you know that you're a job seeker, you're applying for the role, and any moment you're going to get the call. Whenever I'm talking as a manager, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to call sometimes, phone screening. Sometimes my TA is busy, talent acquisition team is busy. So I'm like, you know what? Let me help you. So I've done a lot of phone screening as well as a hiring manager in award-winning company. So when I'm calling, the timing is there. You know that I'm going to call, right? Why would he answer the call with hello, right? That's such a turn off, right? You got to be smart about it. First impression matters. So here's what I want you to do. Hello, this is Sweta. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just say it. Who are you? So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, can I talk to Sweta, right? You take initiative and say, hello, this is Sweta. And then as a hiring manager, I'm going to say, okay, Sweta, how are you? Is this still, as a manager, as a recruiting team, I'm supposed to ask you, that's an etiquette. I'm going to ask you, is this still a good time to talk to you? Because, you might have something going on, right? So, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm going to ask you. And then you're going to say, absolutely, I'm so looking forward to this. You know what? How are you doing? How's your day going? And then call them by their name. You know what? There's a strategy behind it. Call them by their name, because the name is the most beautiful sound anyone can hear. This is how you start with the technique, by being very personal and asking them into the conversation, right? If it's Friday, you can start with saying, oh my God, it's Friday already, right? Okay, how is your day going? Are you busy? Open that. You don't have to sit there and say, yeah, it's the right time. Don't be an order taker. This is how the conversations and the personality starts in phone interview. It's really hard to show your personality in the phone screening. This is where people think that they can't see me. Okay, I'm going to talk like this right now without no, you know what? No one can see me. No one can see me right now. I know that you guys are not able to see me. Now let me change my tone. I know you guys can't see me. But you know what? I'm here today to help you out with the interview tips. Do I sound something different? My personality, and I'm smiling, I'm moving my hand. People can sense the smile on the phone. People can hear your smile. Do you know that? In the world I come in from, the customer service world, we teach people you smile so people can hear you out. So I want you to do that. Sit in front of the mirror. And you might think that body language doesn't do anything in phone interview. They can't see me. Wrong. Sit in front of the mirror. Start smiling. You know what? You're gonna knock that out because you're gonna feel confident, right? That's the first step. Okay. And then the second step obviously would be, at this point you would have done the research, right? Here's the thing people go wrong. They will pick the phone and have no clue that, who's calling, and you're going to ask them like, oh, what is this for? What company are you calling from? I'm like, oh my God, right? You are the one who applied for the role, right? Either if you're busy, don't pick up the phone. Make sure you have all the job descriptions and everything handy, your resume handy as well, and then go through the job descriptions. I would rather want you to go on to let it go onto the voicemail, because as a hiring manager, I'm going to leave the voicemail and say, well, I'm calling from this company for this role. You know what? I'd love to hear back from you, right? Now you know. So have the job descriptions and the resumes that you applied for, because trust me, as a hiring manager, I've hired so many people. I know you've applied to so many roles, right? So which resume? If the resumes were customized, which job descriptions, right? If you've actually applied for 10 roles in the management, chances are the job description is not going to be same, right? So don't assume that. So make sure you have that for each role, and then start now looking and comparing the resume notes and the job description. You should have done that already before. Research about the companies, why they want to work for them and everything. So tell me about yourself. Goes. Now, you know what they're going to ask you probably? And they're going to ask you, walk me through the resume. This is where people actually struggle. They go through the 15 years of experience, right? Unless the job description says, tell us like 15 years of experience, or if the recruiter says to you that, I want to go back to the 15 years. Here's what I probably want to advise you. The caution is, don't go like more than 2 minutes, right? If they want more out of you, that's their job. They're going to get more out of you. They know how to do that. Even the hiring managers, right? If I want to know more, I will ask you more. Don't go on a tangent for 5 minutes from 20 years ago. I would want you to ask question. Okay. So the relevant role first, always the recent role, unless they ask, I would want you to probably ask questions like, okay, I would be happy to go through that. Would you want me to go from the initial days, or would you want me to talk about the recent experience rather? And they're going to give you the pointers and you go with the instruction, right? So now the expectation is clear and you can talk about it. If they want to know more, you can go and talk about it more. So for audio live audience, give me thumbs up if you're hearing this right. Are you getting this so far? Give me thumbs up. Give me thumbs up here. All right, perfect. A lot of thumbs up here. All right. So I'm going to go and share some examples as well later on. And I want to ask you something. When it comes to interview, it's not only about, I'm going to tell you something. It's not only about, the recruiters and hiring managers are actually doing that. Sometime third party would be interviewing you as well, right? So you got to know the process. This is where the research comes in. And people might think that it's a recruiter calling in, but you know what? As a hiring manager, I have called candidates personally because I want to make sure that, I know who I'm talking to. I want to move you to the next round. So if you get the email, if you get the name, quickly go and research about them. So there are two kind of people. The people who are going to ask you technical questions about the tools and everything, you cannot bullshit around. Okay. So if you don't know the answer, here's the strategy I'm going to teach you today. How do you say no without saying no? And how do you convert that into the conversation? Let me just take a look at it here if I missed anything. Okay. So if you're getting any technical interviews, most of the time when they're calling you for phone screening, especially in the technical round, technical interviews, they're going to be probably asking because they have a checklist, right? Requirement from the hiring manager saying that, okay, you know what, I want these people with these many experience on it. If they drop the name of the tools that you've never heard about it, you have no idea what the tool does. And I know, if you know one tool, that doesn't mean that you're going to be expert on the similar tool somewhere else, because the way the tool functions differently around the industry, right? So here's what I want you to do. Instead of saying, I have no clue on that, maybe change your tone, change your conversations, and start seek to I teach the strategy call, seek to understand before you want to answer any questions and before you start assuming it. I want you to go back and ask, can you tell me a little bit more about that tools, right? And then what's going to happen is they're going to tell you, okay, these are the tools, that this is what it does. And if you know what to do with the tools, if you're experienced one, you should know already. And if you don't know, that's fine. That doesn't mean that you're automatically out, right? You never know. So I want you to ask, okay, well, it sounds like, compared to the tools I've used, and you maybe talk about, what it sounds like, it's a similar kind of tools that I've used in the past in this world. And can I ask you something? How much a percentage of the time I would be devoting to this particular tool, and what are the training in the process? And I am a really quick learner. Is there a self-study? How do you train people? Now, what you did was you didn't focus on I don't know. You started to say, well, this seems similar than what I've done in the past, but if I've not done it, what are the processes in place to learn? And I'm willing to self-study, right? This is how you move on to the conversation piece as well. So what that does is recruiters and hiring managers not thinking, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to automatically screen the people out. Unless it was a mandatory requirement, they would have never called you, by the way, because they would see the resume and say, well, if the person doesn't know the tool, I'm never going to call them, right? That's where you are not getting a call because of that. You're getting a call because they really want to know, right? So that's why don't say, I don't know yet, unless you understand the tools. Does that make sense? Give me thumbs up on audio live if it's making sense. A lot of people raising a hand to come up. I will take your questions a little bit later on after I'm wrapping this up, okay? Perfect. All right, so now you know what? Smile, obviously, throughout. Stand up. My best technique is when I'm actually doing the interview. Let's say when I was a job seeker, I got laid off. I was job seeker as well. The thing that I did to actually motivate myself was I would stand and then, do the interview, not sitting down. It's me, personal choice, but I would definitely want you to try that as well. Okay. So now the other thing is, the reason you want to go, and I'm not going to say stalk people, I want you to understand their background, right? Some people have a very good background. They understand what they're doing. And they're going to probably be techie and ask you the questions that you'd be actually doing in day-to-day role. And some people are probably new at role, including the hiring manager, recruiters, right? They're still learning, right? So they're going to not be very techie. And if you talk to them very techie, they're going to lose you. So you got to feel that room temperature, right? If you're talking to a recruiter and a hiring manager who are really not techie, right, probably mirror their knowledge accordingly. You don't want to be sounding like smart ass there, right? It's good. Show them when you are at the job, but don't. Some hiring managers, some recruiter might be intimidated, or they might be losing you, right? You got to connect well. So don't be using the jargon if you don't feel like you're talking to the techie person, okay? Makes sense, I guess. All right. So now, a lot of time when you're going through the company's interview, there are like a couple of agency recruiter, they interview differently. And this is where people put all the recruiters in the same bucket. There are like, a couple of recruiters who are just recruiting through agencies, third party, where companies are hiring and there's a bidding war going on, right? Whoever actually gives them a good candidate, they're going to be pushing. So recruiters are there to actually sell you. they are on your list. They're going to be the one who's going to support you, right? So you got to impress them, even if it's agency recruiter or the talent acquisition team who are internal. Basically, what happens as a hiring manager, I came from the banking world, so I would be assigned business partner first. And then there's a business partner, there's a talent acquisition team who would be hiring for my kind of role only. They have a niche already. So if they already have a niche, meaning they know what they're talking about. All right. This is where you got to talk techie and have them at hello by giving them the checklist that hiring manager would want it. So they're going through the checklist and they're like, oh, the person knows this, 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 this. You know what? Okay, I'm going to move them on to the next process. Now, first impression matters. There's no second chance at all. Okay, so I'm going to share the biases that you might come through and it could work against you or for you. I'm going to share that. Here, let me see here. All right. Biases that it could work against you or for you. Okay. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a really bad thing. From, let's say, if I were to look from the recruiting or employer's perspective, it's wrong. No one should have a biases, but when we have a brain, we will all have biases. And sometimes recruiters and management teams are not trained and we all have biases, right? So expectation bias is what happens is this happens exactly on the phone screening. They really love you on a resume. They're like, oh my God, this person knows everything. I cannot wait to do the interview. And you know what happens now is you're picking that phone, hello, right? It's like, hello versus hi, this is Sweta. How are you? See the difference there? Expectation biases kicks in right there. The perceptions, like, all the negative and positive, they had a huge expectations. And then they're like, tell me about yourself. They're so excited. And you're like, oh, I live right there. I'm like 39 years old. And you just throw in all the bunch of like information that doesn't even matter for the job description. They're like, oh my God, right? They're down. They should not be. They should be still probing. But you know what? There are a lot of recruiters and the hiring managers, they're not trained well when it comes to biases and they're not going to move on. And sometimes what happens is if the phone screenings are supposed to be like 45 minutes, and which happens in the real world, what happens is kind of client that I deal with is sometimes phone screenings are like 20 minutes, which is like checklist, mandatory requirement confirming, and get to know them better to move on. And the other kind of people, other kind of industry employers, depending on the process in place, they would have like 45 minutes to 1 hour where they're going to go through behavioral questions. And if you don't have a behavioral question answers within that, you're done. You're not moving on. And people like where I have had clients hired in Amazon, right? They will ask you the behavioral questions and there are like multiple interviews that you're going to have to go through and you cannot have a same examples because it can be recorded. And what happens is it's not going to be only hiring manager. It's going to be stakeholders and the different partners as well, because they want to avoid the biases, right? There's a program in place. They have a blueprint as well. They go with the leadership principle. So you need to learn and talk in their language. So this is why the interview is not about all like, one size fits all. And I do the customized interviews. As a matter of fact, if I were to take any client in one-to-one coaching sessions and interview, I don't even take them unless they've applied for the job. They've shown me the job descriptions and they're going to get the call. And this is where I teach them, all right, show me the resume you applied for and let's go through it, right? Because I don't feel it's a right approach at all. So I need to show them a framework based on the research and everything. This is where the expectation bias comes in, which is you're not doing the research and they're thinking, why do you want to work for the company? And they're like, you're not even, let's say you get the call from Amazon and there's Dan, I think on the on here, who is from the Amazon team. And you know what, he can attest to it. And you know what, that's a guy, follow him guys, follow him. That's a guy, Dan Roth, on the audience right now, Amazon recruiter, and he could talk about it. You know what? You got to research about the company too sometimes. And all the recruiters, right? You have an expectations and, and you've not researched about it and you're just going onto the tangent and you're not talking about anything else but like, no principles, no missing values. You've just lost them. And you're not going to be moved on to the second round. This is where the research comes in about the people, about the company. Similarity, attractions is the biases that kicks in as well, where personalities, gender, age, similar backgrounds, which is beneficial sometimes, but it's a biases that, you know what, it could work against you based on their experience with the backgrounds and many other factors. So that's why you don't want to talk about the personal things to avoid those, avoid those biases or discriminations. There's a affinity bias as well. Something in common sometimes could work. You know how we say, this is what I don't like, when people go like, people hire people they like, right? And I feel like it's complete bias, but listen, we're all human, right? This is where networking comes in and everything, something in common. And if you have too many things in common, there's no diversity, I feel that, and there's no diverse ideas. Imagine people are hiring same kind of people all the time, then there's no diversity. That's what I think. But sometimes this is where the research comes in and finding out what kind of people they are hiring. So this is where the research comes in, so you avoid that, right? So confirmation bias, negative experience. So confirmation bias comes in for a lot of immigrants, especially the people who are newcomer in Canada. Any newcomer in Canada in the house, give me thumbs up, give me heart emojis. Any newcomers? All right, so this could happen, especially what happens is a lot of newcomers, right? First of all, I mean, you left your home. All right, you did not leave your brain and skills behind. Who agrees to it? Give me heart emojis if you're an immigrant. You've done so much already, right? Um, and yes, we're going to have an accent. I do have an accent, but who cares, right? I'm an experienced person. So if I'm going for an interview and if recruiters and hiring managers just listen to my accent and not moving me to the second phone screening, that's going to be hard. Like negative experience that they've dealt in the past. For example, for a lot of customer service industry, what happens is you're going to be on talking to the client, and when that accent kicks in, when that grammar kicks in, they might be thinking, oh, this is going to be automatically impacting the client experience, so I don't think it's going to be a good call, right? So this is what comes in. So this is where you got to research about the company, what kind of people they're hiring. Is there a diversity? Are they hiring a lot of people like you? Are they hiring people like, do you hear the people with accent? Does the recruiter even have an accent? To be honest, you know what? Whenever someone called me when I was a job seeker after I got laid off, some people had an accent. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, my confidence went up. It's like, I want to work there because you know what? Someone from the top level who look like me and who has an accent is calling me. Man, I want to work there. You see what I'm saying? I felt the sense of belonging automatically. So biases tips are something that it could work against you or for you. Now I'm going to move on to the questions, which is something that people are not going to be standing out on it. Anytime people are asking questions, this could happen on phone interview where there's a behavioral questions. The first thing they do is, okay, well, tell me about the time, so first thing, people are going to ask you sometimes, what are your areas of weaknesses, opportunity, whatever, right? And you know what? A lot of people they do is they drop in 3 weaknesses. Oh, I have a hard time saying no. Done. I'm a hard worker. Done. I pick up someone else's slack. Done. They stop right there. No, 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 no. I'm gonna show you the Carl technique. And that's going to work the wonder for you. And a lot of my clients who's made into the award-winning company, they framework together depending on the role, and you still have to go with the job descriptions. I'm going to share you one sample. I'm going to guide you where do you go and get more samples as well on my website so you can learn it. So now self-awareness is the key. The reason they're asking you is, are you going to be self-aware, right? I don't want to be working with somebody who's not coachable, right? Self-awareness is something that we need to learn, right? So do you have challenges? Contests, you got to provide the contest. I use the Carl framework for any type of questions, which is going to be area of learning for you. There's a different technique, but I focus on Carl technique, especially for the one that you feel like, you need to be self-aware of it. These are the type of questions. Example, it's not all. These are the type of questions. You can see it on the screen. And then I'm going to share answers, right? Some of the answers. I'll be I'll be very blunt here. As a hiring manager, I've seen all the cliche answer about like, "No, tell me some weaknesses," that it always ends up in the strength. If you get the hiring manager like me, I'll call you out on it. Can you give me a different example? I really want to know. The reason I want to know sometimes is I want to help you. It's not to weed you out, right? Yes, there are bad apples there. They're going to weed you out. But I really want to know where I can focus if you get hired so I know it's going to be documented and you know what? I can help you grow. That's the reason I'm asking you, right? So sometimes you got to really realize that you need to let them know in advance so that way you're coachable and you can be improved and you can work as a partner and then you can be working as a coach, right? There's a difference between like, why people are asking to weed you out versus if they're asking you for a right reason, right? I love this because of the fact that I want to help you, not to weed you out. Got to be strategic. Try all those things: emotional intelligence, bluntness, too direct, hard time delegating, things like that, right? But then how you say it matters, and it all depends on the job descriptions as well. If you're seeing me on the YouTube, give me thumbs up because I'm sharing the slide on my YouTube channel with all the examples. So you can go back and then see it later on in YouTube as well. There are a lot of examples I'm sharing on YouTube. You can go and pull it up on my slide there, okay? So now the Carl technique, I'm going to read you from the screen and you can go back later on in YouTube as well, take a screenshot and I'll share with you where you can find this more information on my website as well. So the Carl technique would be the context and challenges, right? It's always about the challenges. So I used to have a hard time. So Carl technique, CARL, which is I used to have a hard time executing the monthly meetings and time. And as a result, I had to do follow-up meetings again. I also struggled in welcoming feedback during the presentation because of time allotment, which affected audience engagement. I needed to work on my approach, that is how to handle disagreement without being too direct, dismissive, and still run the meeting on time. That was my weakness, guys. Seriously, right? I'm putting it out there, right? And then here's what I did. Action. I reach out to the mentors for help who were amazing at controlling crowds in meeting. I asked them to sit through my meeting and provide me with feedback, which helped. The first step was to extend the meeting from 1 hour to 1.5 hours. The second step was to send the agenda and topics in advance so there are no surprises. The last step was to be self-aware of my emotional intelligence when receiving feedback. I learned that it was my body language and how I disagreed. I worked on it by asking the right questions. I became self-aware, started to engage with the audience, and welcomed their suggestions. I took notes of their suggestions and asked, "Tell me more. Your thoughts. Why do you think it's differently?" Then I followed up with the stakeholders to check in if we ran out of time. I asked the audience from the meeting what they would like me to do differently and implemented the change for the next month. Now, I'm giving a couple of nuggets here. You don't have to repeat everything, right? You can take one and run with it. This is why one size does not fit all. I'm giving you all the bullet points on however you want to attack to this. So results, because of that, I'm navigating and saying the result of that. I'm leading them on, right? So the result of that was I saw the immediate change. I got buy-in and the meeting ended in time. My relationship became better. More people spoke up and provided me with the broken process, which helped me grow as a person. I became better at managing up and fostering relationships with colleagues. Now, you don't have to provide all of it. Just one line is fine as well. Again, I'm giving you the nuggets. Now, the lesson learned is very important on the Carl technique. Being blunt might hurt a reputation even if you have good intentions. When in conflict, I became self-aware of emotions. First is to listen, work on my body language and tone, welcome the critiques, understand the other person, and make them feel heard. Then I follow up. I understood that disagreement is a part of business. It helps to identify the process gap, Seek to understand before assuming became my motto. That was my lesson learned. Now, I'm also going to go far depending on how the conversation goes. And I'm going to add my present state now is I practice a similar technique when I deal with online disagreement. It's happening right now. I'm a content creator. Some people actually disagree, right? But how do I attack those emotions? How do I deal with it? First, I seek to understand and work on my emotional intelligence. Sometimes you could disagree and still have mutual respect, right? Sometimes it is okay to agree to disagree, but watch the tone and body language, right? You don't have to talk about everything, but then I'm giving you, here is how you actually talk about the Carl technique with the framework. And then what you can do is lead on to the conversation. Now, a lot of people leave it there. I'd like to go one step ahead. I teach my client as well. Now, what you're going to talk about, depending on the weaknesses, what they ask, you want to move on to the conversation piece, which is don't be order taker. Don't wait until the last minute. And you're going to move on. How do you make the interview conversation to find out why they're asking these questions, right? Right after answering those weakness questions, ask them, since we're on this topic, could you please let me know what programs in place for the new hire, current employee for personal development? How does that work? See what you did. Now, chill, relax, have a bottle of water, let them talk, right? Now they're going to sell you. They're like, oh, we have this courses, Toastmasters, and leadership courses and everything. Now, this is how it's done. And there's no one size fits all at all when it comes to interview. It's all about job descriptions, the industries, and all those things that you've talked about. Now, if you want to talk to me about interview coaching, there's the appointment calendar. I've gotten multiple offers myself. I was a hiring manager. I have my clients working in the award-winning company with a similar technique. And you know what? Let's hop in. And you know what? If you're going through the phone interview and you're not even converting into the second, third, or you're not being accepted, sometimes there's something in the interview, 100% it's coming out, and I can help you bounce back. Now, I'm going to share what else do you actually can find the informations on my YouTube channel. There's a weaknesses videos. Also, there's blog on a website, job search blog right there. You can see all the examples there with the video as well. And by the way, I'm on TikTok too. I give a lot of information on TikTok for free. There are free resources. And you know what? You can download the free resources for yourself as well. Most common interview questions you can get in interview as well, along with the answer as well, under free resources on my website down there. All right.